I found Ryan Harper's old phone from years ago in the storage room. Back then he forgot the password, and after multiple failed attempts, the phone was locked for hours. The phone held countless memories of our time together. Determined to access it, I went out and bought a wide port charger. By the time I finished cleaning, the phone had charged, and it showed only a few hours left before I could re-enter the password. I lay down, scrolling through my current phone to pass the time. Hours later, I picked up the old phone and my fingers instinctively entered my birth date. After the phone had been locked, Ryan had changed all his passwords to my birthday, the day he confessed his feelings to me when I turned 18. Before I realized it, I had already input all 6 digits. I braced myself, thinking the phone would lock again. To my surprise, the password worked and the phone unlocked. What greeted me was shocking. A photo of my sister Emily as the wallpaper. The lock screen was of Emily. I jolted upright, an unsettling absurdity washing over me. The password was correct. So he hadn't forgotten it. Had he locked the phone on purpose? I remembered this phone once stored our intimate photos and sweet conversations, but now there was nothing about me. The photo album was filled with pictures of Emily, her back, her profile, moments of her practicing dance, walking to the cafeteria. The images were many, chaotic, and deeply personal. The chat history between Ryan and Emily was disturbingly close and flirtatious. Judging by the timestamps, this was during the time I was with Ryan. They shamelessly talked about me, filling their messages with ambiguous undertones. In the end, Emily said she had someone she liked and deleted Ryan. The chat turned into a long string of green texts, emotional outpourings brimming with heartfelt love. That day coincided with the day Ryan's phone was locked. So he locked the phone because Emily cut ties with him after falling for someone else? Suddenly, I remembered Emily got divorced yesterday, and last night Ryan came home drunk, vomiting everywhere, which is why I was cleaning today and stumbled upon the phone. So Ryan had loved Emily all along, from high school until now. What did that make me? My chest tightened, breathing became difficult, and I trembled all over. I accidentally opened the phone's notes app. The top entry was a draft confession. With shaky hands I opened it. Every word was identical to the confession he once gave me, except for one difference. The name on the draft was Emily Harper. My name is Lily Harper. It hit me. On the day Ryan confessed to me, the flowers he brought were wilted. Turned out I was his second choice. The past years were nothing but a grand deception. My breathing became labored and the world went dark as I fainted. When I opened my eyes, I found myself back at 17 years old in the early winter of that year. Fallen leaves blanketed the ground and the air was crisp. I rushed to the bathroom to wash my face, trying to clear my mind. In my haste, I didn't notice the sign and entered the men's restroom. To make matters worse, someone walked in. Panicking, I hid in a stall, my heart pounding. "Are you really going to confess to the school beauty? She's got plenty of admirers," a voice said. "Whether I confess or you confess, it doesn't matter." "I'm not scared, so why are you?" came Ryan's familiar nonchalant voice. "Even if you fail, it's fine. There's always Lily Harper as a backup, right?" his friend replied, laughing. "You're something else, man. Can't get the school beauty? No problem. You've got her little sister," his friend continued, bursting into laughter. "Though it's strange, Lily Harper and the school beauty are twins." Ryan Harper's casual laughter filled the room, dripping with a kind of self-satisfaction that grated on my nerves. He was showing off, bragging about how easy it was to have someone run errands for him, like lining up for lunch or grabbing a drink. His words were playful, but they stabbed at me like needles. His friends chimed in, teasing and laughing, their voices echoing painfully in my ears. How could someone as plain as him even think about liking someone like the school beauty? It's like a stray mutt from the countryside dreaming about a swan from the city. The words stung even though they weren't directed at me. They kept talking, their voices getting fainter as they walked away. Only then did I clench my fists and step out of the stall. My heart pounded as I hurried back to the classroom with my head down. Just as I sat at my desk, the bell rang. Emily Harper walked in, elegant as always, and took her seat beside me. Without a word, she shifted her chair slightly away. I couldn't help but glance at her, feeling the distance between us. Emily and I truly were worlds apart. When my mom gave birth to twins, the family quickly decided they didn't have the resources to raise us both. My grandparents offered to take me while my parents kept Emily. She stayed in the city, cradled in my mother's arms, breastfeeding and growing up with all the care in the world. Meanwhile, I was sent to the countryside, raised on powdered milk and rice paste. By the time we were toddlers, the differences between us were stark. While Emily wore delicate princess dresses and grew up rosy-cheeked, I played in the mud, my skin darkened by the sun. The gap widened with time. Emily was pampered and adored, while I was left in the care of my strict, frugal grandparents. My grandmother would often say, "Your mother didn't want you." Words that stuck with me like a shadow. I didn't return to the city until high school, when my grandparents could no longer provide for my education. At first, I was thrilled to live with my family, thinking things would finally change. But my mother's constant criticism crushed my enthusiasm. She never stopped comparing me to Emily. If Emily liked dancing, they'd scrape together money for her lessons. She won awards and shone like a swan, while I stood awkwardly on the sidelines, a clumsy duckling. Within a year, the constant pressure and comparisons eroded my confidence. I became self-conscious and sensitive, especially after Emily and I ended up in the same class in our second year of high school. It was inevitable that we'd be seated together, but sharing a desk with her felt like the final blow. My life seemed to dim entirely from that moment. But now I wasn't the same Lily Harper. Many but few could claim the distinction of having Ryan Harper chase after them. Eventually he smirked and said, "All right." I couldn't help but curl my lips into a sly smile. The game had just begun. Weekend self-study sessions were loosely monitored by teachers. Ryan brazenly entered our classroom, where some open seats remained since commuting students didn't attend these sessions. Emily sat far from me, but Ryan chose the empty seat directly behind me. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught Emily's startled expression. Suddenly I felt a poke on my back. Turning around, I saw Ryan grinning as he handed me a piece of paper. It was blank. He was simply using it as an excuse to draw Emily's attention. Playing along, I pretended to scribble something on it before passing it back to him. Emily, clearly furious, stormed over and sat next to me. Reaching out, she tried to grab the note, but I quickly tucked it into my pocket and buried my head in my workbook as if she wasn't there. From behind, Ryan whistled teasingly at Emily, which only made her more livid. After the self-study session ended, I took my time packing up, deliberately stalling so I could follow them unnoticed. On the way back to the dorms, Emily stopped Ryan in his tracks, her voice sharp with anger. "What were you two writing on that note? And didn't you say you'd make Lily apologize to me?" Ryan crossed his arms casually. "Apologies? I suddenly realized Lily's kind of cute. She likes me and listens to me. I thought I'd give it a try." Emily's voice rose an octave. "You like her?" she exclaimed, incredulous. Ryan nodded with a smirk. "A little bit." Emily stared at him, disbelief written all over her face. "But don't you like me?" Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Did I ever say that?" The air turned heavy with silence. From my spot behind them, I watched the scene unfold, thoroughly entertained by the drama. Finally, Emily gritted her teeth and said, "You can't like Lily." "Why not?" Ryan asked innocently, feigning confusion. "Because I like you." Emily blurted out, her voice trembling with frustration. "You dump Lily Harper and be with me." I didn't even need to look at Ryan Harper to know he was thrilled. Feigning hesitation, he said, "But Lily has done so much for me while trying to win my heart. I'm really touched." Emily, entirely led by the nose, declared, "Fine. I'll chase you. Just wait." After Emily stormed off, Ryan's grin didn't falter for a second. He was practically glowing with pride. Clearly he was overjoyed. I hoped his happiness would last, though I doubted it. The next day, Emily started actively trying to win Ryan over. I didn't even have to guide her. Ryan handled everything perfectly. Whenever Emily made a move, he would pretend to be affectionate with me, keeping her on edge. When she got angry, he'd sweet-talk her back into a good mood. The dynamic mirrored the old chat logs I'd seen between them, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of déjà vu. While the two of them played their little game, I buried myself in studying. In my previous life, I graduated with a teaching degree and later became a high school teacher. These topics were second nature to me, but I still practiced diligently. This time, I wasn't settling for just becoming a teacher. Soon, rumors spread around school that Emily, the school beauty, was chasing Ryan. During a rare sunny PE class, I sat on the grass, basking in the sunlight while reading a book. With my back to the sun, I suddenly heard someone sit down behind me and start chatting loudly. "I'm telling you, Ryan is irresistible." Even the school beauty is chasing after him now. School beauty? She can dance a bit and has won a few awards, but she's not even in Ryan's league. Ryan's voice, brimming with smugness, cut in. All right, that's enough. Girls are sensitive. Let's not embarrass her. She's been chasing me for a while now. Keeping her hanging isn't great either. When it comes to confessing, that's a guy's job. Meanwhile, the class teacher had caught wind of the rumors and called Emily to the office. Emily Harper, even if you're taking the arts route, cultural subjects are still crucial. Do you understand? Faced with the teacher's stern expression, Emily turned pale. Yes, I understand, she mumbled. The teacher didn't say anything outright but emphasized the importance of focusing on academics before letting her go. By the time I returned from the field after overhearing Ryan's bragging session, Emily had just stepped out of the office. I pulled her aside immediately. The moment she saw me, she shook off my hand with disgust. Lily Harper, did you snitch on me? Don't think you can act all high and mighty just because Grandma and Grandpa are here. That house is still my parents' property and they can kick them out any time. Don't forget, I said calmly. When they bought that house, they didn't have enough money and borrowed a lot from Grandma and Grandpa. Back then, Grandma wanted to enroll me in a dance class and you in a hobby class of your choice, but all the extra money went toward that house instead. They believed if Emily Harper could have something, Lily Harper should too. Even though it was inconvenient for them to send me to lessons from the countryside, they still wanted it to be fair. But because of the house, they couldn't afford to enroll me. Emily froze, unable to respond immediately. I continued, I pulled you aside to tell you that Ryan Harper is playing both of us. Her expression wavered. What do you mean? Ryan told me he likes you but wanted to give me a chance to pursue him. And at the same time he told you he likes me and encouraged you to chase him. He's lying to both of us, trying to have his cake and eat it too. Emily, proud and self-righteous, couldn't stand the idea of being deceived or toyed with. But as always, she was too naive to realize how foolish she looked. I overheard that he's planning to confess to you in a couple of days. After dropping that bombshell, I turned and walked away. There was no need for me to give any suggestions. Emily Harper always knew how to hit where it hurt most. Back when I first arrived in the city, I often felt crushed under her heel, unable to hold my head high in front of her. At the time, I didn't understand why she treated me with so much hostility despite the fact that we were blood-related. Over time, I realized it was because our parents didn't like me and she simply mirrored their behavior. But now it didn't matter anymore. I didn't care for them either.